2020 marks the 20th anniversary of my favorite television show of all time, Lost. So I'd like to rank my top 10 favorite episode of the series and expect a lot more Lost videos coming soon. I just think that this show is amazing and I love it to death. So without further ado, here we go. Number 10 is Exodus. The finale of season 1 is all sorts of epic and ends this season on such a great cliffhanger, but like this satisfying episode on all its own. It's just so exciting and it really shows how great television can be. I know that it's like 20 years old, but wow, what a amazing cliffhanger. Like, it's even better than most series that come out today. I think that this episode is just absolutely terrific. The episode starts with Russo arriving at the camp. The survivors, they need a place to hide because she tells them that the others are coming, and she gives them 3 choices. She said that they either have the choice to run, hide, or die, and they decide to hide. They want to go to the Black Rock, and they need to bring back dynamite so that they can blow open the hatch that Locke and Moon found. And like, everybody knows the hatch at this point, like, no longer secret, and they need to go to the jungle with Russo to the Black Rock, which is this wrecked ship in the middle of the jungle, and they need to go find the dynamite. She also informs that, like, with the others, they come with this black smoke, which she saw when her child was kidnapped like 16 years ago. So Jack, Locke, and Kate and Hurley, they go with Russo to the jungle. Before Jack leaves, he has this last conversation with Sawyer, who is leaving on the raft with Walt, Michael, and Jin. Like, their goodbye is one of my favorite scenes in this entire show. Like, they have their goodbyes, but he tells Jack about his dad, like the time that he met his dad in Sydney. And like, the reaction to Matthew Fox's face, like his expression is just like so amazing while he's listening to Sawyer telling the story of how he met the Christian in a bar, and that Christian didn't have the guts to call his son, and that he felt sorry for what he did to Jack, but like he never ended up calling him. And it's just like this touching moment between like these two guys that like I think that they sort of come to liking each other near this point of the show, but they've had like this rocky relationship, and it's so great seeing them like sort of reconcile, and Sawyer telling him like about his father, which he didn't have to say anything, but like, I think that Sawyer is a lot better than the way he acts. So the crew says goodbye to Walt, Michael, and Sawyer and Jin, and they manage to launch the raft onto the ocean. Like, the scene where the dog goes after the boat is like so sad. It's so touching. It's like probably one of my favorite scenes of the entire show as well. It's like 2 scenes in this episode are like my favorites of this series. It's amazing. Survivors, Jack, Kate, Hurley, and Locke Arts, they head out to the jungle with Russo. They find the Black Rock and they bring back some dynamite. The art blows up before they head to the hatch. Like, it's a great scene. It's so unexpected too. Like, I love this moment because like it's so shocking. And then like Hurley says like, you have some arts on you. On their way there, they meet this monster, this sort of black smoke, which we later find out what it is. But yeah, Locke gets almost sucked into this hole. He sort of like begs Kate to let him go. Like, he wants the monster to take him down, but like Kate throws in the dynamite. This is such a great scene. And like Jack doesn't understand what went through Locke's head. Like, nobody does. Like, Locke is just special being that we don't really understand that most of the time, but most of the time he's right. And I love the conversation between Jack and Locke. Jack tells Kate that like after tonight we're gonna have like a Locke problem. And so meanwhile at the camp, Russo kidnaps the baby. Like Russo left the Black Rock and she went back to the camp. This was just a reason for diversion for her, so she could kidnap Claire's baby Aaron, because she wanted like to exchange the baby with Alex. Like I don't know what was going on through her head, but like she's insane. So like you gotta give her some slack. Charlie and Saeed, they go after Russo. Charlie gets injured. I love the scene where Saeed pours the gunpowder on Charlie's head and like Charlie screams. Such an intense moment. Charlie also like finds a statue of the Virgin Mary. We all know what's inside those statues. They find Russo and like Charlie's going after her, but like Saeed like just like does like he gets it. He understands that Russo is like losing her mind. At least the baby's all right. So yeah. Meanwhile on the raft, like on that night, they captured this thing on their radar signal, and they decide to fire their flare gun. Like they have one shot, and Michael like finally accepts to fire it. Like Sawyer like begs him to. And so they are finally found by this boat, but of course this boat isn't there to rescue them. This boat, it belongs to the others. And Tom, and we later come to know as Tom, he tells Michael that we're gonna have to take the boy. Like then shootout happens. I think Sawyer and Jin, they fall off the raft, and then they grab Walt, and then they like throw this bomb off, and Michael falls off, and they kidnap Walt. So yeah, Locke, Jack, Kate, and Hurley, they're about to blow the hatch. Hurley just happens to come across the cursed numbers of his past, the ones that he thinks are cursed. 4, 8, 15, 16, 23, 42. It's written on the hatch. He goes bananas. He yells like, "Don't do it, stop!" But Locke doesn't anyway. He doesn't give a shit. And the hatch door blows up. So this season ends with Locke and Jack looking down the hatch, and the audience as well is wondering what the hell's down there, and that question is answered in the second season of Lost. So fantastic ending. I love this final episode of season 1. Number 9 is The End, part 1 and 2. I know that The End is a very controversial episode of the series. I think that it's a really brave ending for the show. I really enjoyed this ending. I'm emotionally moved every time I watch this episode. I think that it's beautifully done. I think a lot of the actors, they do just a wonderful job at it, and I love that the revelation of the Flash Sideways is like the afterlife. I think that it's really just a beautiful way to end this show, and I love when everybody is reunited at the church. They soon wake up, and they soon realize that everybody soon realizes that they are sort of in like this limbo state, and that it's time for them to let go and to move on together in this church. Jack is like the last one to wake up, and he goes inside the church. He meets his father, Christian, who tells him that everything that happened on the island was real. Everything that happens in the island too is damn well entertaining. You got a confrontation between Locke and Jack. Jack wants to stop the Men in Black for good, and to do that, Jack needs to evaporate the heart of the island, the light. And they, with the help of Desmond, they lure him down to this tunnel, and then he manages to take off the cork, and then the light vanishes. But while the light vanishes, Jack and Locke, they go at each other and they fight, because now Locke is no longer immortal. That's how Jack can beat him. And so it happens on this cliff. and everything is falling down in the ocean. Like parts of the island is really crumbling down. And so Jack and Locke they fight, and Jack is stabbed, and then Locke is about to kill him, but Kate saves him, and they manage to kill the Men in Black. And now Jack is the protector of the island, but he needs to go put the cork back in its place. So he names Hurley the main protector of the island, and he goes back and he puts the cork back in. And Jack is mortally wounded, so he's going to die. There's nothing he can do. And he goes back into the jungle where the series began, and he sees the plane, the edge of a plane, fly away, because like the survivors, like Kate, Sawyer, and Claire, Richard, and Lapidus, and as well as Miles, they are able to leave. While Jack was putting the cork back, they fled in the gyroplane. So Damon, the rest of the survivors, they leave, while Hurley names Ben his representative, and they watch out for the island, while the survivors they leave, and we don't know what happened to Sawyer, Kate, or Aaron and Claire. We don't know what happens to them, but I imagine that they managed to get on with their lives. I think that this ending is fantastic, and I really don't have much flaws, other than the fact that like Saeed ends up with Shannon rather than Nadia. I think that was like really a dumb move by the writers, but that aside, I think that this is a great series finale. Number 8 is Pilot Part 1 and 2. The best pilot of any TV show I think I've ever seen. This is just a wonderful episode. It sets up everything right. We are introduced to these characters in like 15 minutes when the plane crashes on this beach. Jack goes in and he saves everyone. And I think this episode is brilliant. It's superbly done. Just love the mysteries introduced here. We get a shot of a polar bear. Sawyer shoots the polar bear. We also hear like this monster that roams in the jungle at night. We don't know what it is. Jack and Kate head out to the jungle to find the second half of the plane so they can get the transceiver. They go with Charlie and find the pilot still alive, but the pilot gets eaten by the monster. And the pilot is played by Greg Grunberg from Heroes fame. Whatever happened to this actor? I really liked him. In part 2, Sayed tells Kate that they need to get to the highest point of the island so that they can send a mayday signal. Meanwhile, Jack takes care of the marshal, who has some alarming information on Kate. And then they come across like the French signal, the French woman signal that's been playing over and over again for 17 years. And she's never been found. So like, and this episode ends with like Charlie saying like, guys, where the hell are we? Which is, I think, is a damn good question. And so yeah, this is a terrific episode, part 1 and part 2 pilot. I think it's just a really great, entertaining episode. It's the best first episode for the series I've ever seen. Also, the pilot cost so much, like 10 to 15 million, and it was a passion project for Lord Braun. There's like this misconception out there that Braun was fired, but he actually quit because he kept having disagreements with Michael Eisner and Robert Iger. And Lord Braun is actually the voice that does the announcements at the beginning of every episode, like the previously on Lost announcements. He's the voice that does them. I think that's pretty cool. Number 7 is the episode 316. One of my favorite episodes of the 5th season. 316, I think, is absolutely fantastic. It follows our survivors who are trying to get back to the island. Well, some of them are, like Ben and Jack are trying to convince everyone to go back to the island. They meet Eloise, who tells them how Dharma actually found the island. Eloise tells them how they can go back to the island at this lamppost station. And so they finally end up everyone together, like magically, like almost like that it's destiny. Like all the Oceanic Six except Aaron and they end up on this flight. They are on this flight called the 316 from Algeria Airways, and they headed back to the island. Some of the survivors end up in present day, while some of them, like Jack, Kate, and Hurley, go back in the past in 1977 where Sawyer and Miles and Jin are. So, like the survivors of 316 are split. The people in the past, they want to get back to the present, of course. I like when Lapidus meets Jack on the plane. I love the lines like he meets Jack and he sees like all of the survivors on the plane. Like immediately figures out what the hell is going on, and he's like, "We're not going to go home, are we?" I think that is just a terrific line. It's probably like it might be just my favorite line in the series. I think it's just super well delivered. Number 6 is Ab Aeterno. This is a great episode because it really focuses on Richard and it explains how he is immortal. It shows his entire backstory, and I like everything this episode shows us. I think it's really well done. It's definitely one of the best episodes of season 6. I think that this episode really starts strong with Richard trying to save his dying wife, but he can't because he doesn't have enough money, and he goes to the doctor, and the doctor just doesn't want to help him because he doesn't have enough. And like they struggle, he kills the doctor accidentally, and Richard gets arrested, and then he is sent on the Black Rock as a slave because like he speaks English, he doesn't just speak Spanish. And then the Black Rock, it crashes on the island, it crashes on the statue, and like it ends up in the middle of the jungle magically, I guess. And so when the crew tries to murder the entire slaves, like they almost kill Richard, but like the man in black steps in, and he offers Richard a choice. He breaks the chains. He wants Richard to kill the devil, which is his brother Jacob. He tells him that the devil is Jacob and that Richard is in hell. And so Man in Black gives Richard a knife, and Richard goes to Jacob in order to kill him. He goes to the statue, which is Jacob's home, and Jacob easily overpowers Richard. And so Jacob tells him that Man in Black is actually the evil one. He also explains to Richard the nature of the island, and how the evil is kept at bay. The darkness is kept at bay by this quirk, and that Jacob is the protector. And he also tells that the Man in Black believes that all men are corrupted and that they are evil, but Jacob wants to prove them wrong, so he brings people to the island. And he wants to give them free will. And so Jacob offers Richard a job. He tells Richard that he should be like his representative, and in return he allows Richard to live forever, which explains why Richard never ages. I think that this explanation is pretty satisfying. I think that it was cool for them to show Richard's entire backstory, and like what a tragic past Richard has. He's really a tragic character. And so the episode ends with Richard finally reuniting with his wife. Thanks to Hurley, he is able to see her, and he embraces her, and he decides that they should stop the Man in Black. Number 5 is Walkabout. This episode is regarded as one of the best of the series by a lot of people because it's revealed at the ending of the episode that Locke is actually in a wheelchair. He couldn't walk before arriving to the island, and at the end of the episode we realize that island magically healed his illness. We later find out that it's because of Jacob. Jacob healed him. We find out that Locke is in a wheelchair, and I love that, like, we learn that Locke's past is sort of like tragic. We sort of pity him because He didn't really have this great life. The ending scene where Locke tries to get on the bus but they won't let him and he yells, "Don't tell me what I can do!" It gets me every time. It's so emotional. He works at this box company, like his manager is sort of dick to him, and he speaks on the phone with like this sex phone operator who he calls Helen, but she's not really Helen, and this is like after his breakup with Helen, and he can't really move on, and so he just calls this operator and he pays for it, and he wants to invite her on the Walkabout, but like she doesn't want to, and she just used Locke as a client, and yeah, so on the island, they need to hunt for food, and boars attack the fuselage, and Locke proposes that they should hunt for boars. I love the scene where Locke throws the knife and like it lands right near Sawyer. I just love that scene so much. And yeah, so they hunt for boars. It doesn't really go well. While Saeed, he wants to pinpoint the French signal, the like Russo signal, and he asks Kate and Shannon for help. So they try to locate like where Russo's signal is coming from, but Saeed gets knocked out, and we of course later find out that the one who knocked him out is actually Locke himself. And Locke manages to hunt down a boar, and he brings it back to the survivors so that they can eat. And a funeral is taken place. The survivors burned the fuselage. Number 4 is The Incident. The Incident, to me, is one of the best season finales. And the season finales of Lost are truly exciting, and they're really terrific. And this is no exception. I think that season 5 of Lost is really entertaining. While I know a lot of people are ticked off by time travel, I think that here it was done super well, and I think that the finale is really exciting. Jack wants to explode this hydrogen bomb inside the Swan Station while it's under construction, because he thinks that it's gonna eliminate everything that they've been through. He thinks that the plane will actually land in LAX, and so he wants it to do a do-over, and Sawyer doesn't want to. Juliet and Kate, they want to stop him at first, but then Juliet has sort of this change of heart, and at the end everybody's sort of on the same page. Sawyer doesn't want to lose Juliet, and I understand him. He doesn't want to change the past, but Jack is broken. He's this broken man at this point, and he thinks that he's sure that this is what they're supposed to do. So they get into the Swan Station, but there's this big shootout. Saeed gets really injured, and they try to set the bomb off, but they can't. And this entire station, there's this pocket of energy that's been breached, and so everything is being sucked down this hole. And Juliet is sucked down, and then she just starts banging on the hydrogen bomb so that it goes off. And then this brilliant flash of white light goes off, and for the first time in the show, usually it ends with the lost, the word lost on the black screen, but here it's on this white screen for first time in the show. It's a great ending. It's one of the most intense ending, and one of the most frustrating cliffhangers of the series. Of course, I love the opening shot of this episode where we see Jacob and the Men in Black. We finally see Jacob after seasons of him being mentioned. I never really thought watching the show that they were gonna show him. I thought that he was gonna be this unknown person that we're never really gonna see, or it was never really gonna be explained. But we finally see Jacob, and I think that this episode is memorable because of that. Number 3 is The Constant. The Constant is seen as one of the best episodes of the entire show. It really made time travel interesting, and it was really exciting how they played on it. I really liked the way Desmond like was confused as they left the island on the helicopter. He like he loses track of time, and he's lost between like the year 1996 and 2004. Like he goes back and forth, and we see his past. We see like him in the army, and then he goes to Daniel Faraday first because Daniel tells him to find him at Oxford, and then he goes to see Winmore so he can find Penny, which is like his anchor, his time anchor, his constant. And so Desmond in the past, he's able to track her down, and he tries to tell her that he needs her phone number so that he can call her like 8 years later on December 25, 2004. And he actually does, and she answers, and like that is true love, man. Like this guy left you, he abandons you, and like you'll still answer him on December 25. I mean, that is like amazing. But yeah, he regains his memories, and he's not lost in time anymore because he found his constant, thanks to Daniel Faraday. And like, I love the way this episode ends as well. Like, Daniel Faraday just searches through this journal, and he was like actually prepared for this to happen because like in this journal it's written like, if anything goes wrong, then Desmond Hume is my constant. I think that was such a great way to end this episode. Number 2 is Through the Looking Glass Part 1 and 2. Through the Looking Glass, I think, is one of the best episodes of the entire series. It's exciting, it's emotionally resonant, and just like the ending twist, I mean, wow, it's just absolutely terrific. It's because like there's so many twists and turns, so many mysteries. Like, I mean, I'm sure like the writers had a ball writing this show. I just love that we find out at the end of this episode that some of the survivors actually made it off the island. Kate and Jack, they meet. Jack tells her we need to go back. He's broken. He doesn't know what to do with himself. And I just love how it was done as well. We just don't really know that this is a flash forward. We think that this is a flashback because we think that we see that Jack is like slowly getting worse and worse, his mental state. He's a drunk, and we think that it's because of his breakup with his wife Sarah, but actually it's because they left the island and they left some survivors there. They didn't take everybody with them, and it's clearly been eating away at Jack. I love the way that was done. I love the entire episodes too. I love the survivors' plan of like overtaking the others. They use Juliet. Juliet helps them fight the others back. They mark the tents so that the others can go grab their pregnant woman, but like there's no pregnant woman in their tents. There are tents. There are dynamite. There are shooters. There's Jin, and there's Bernard, and there's Saeed. There's 3 shooters, and they shoot the 10. But I think that it's Jin that fires at one, and he misses it, and like the others, they take them. And we are sort of teased. We think that the survivors, we think that 3 of them, they are killed by the others because we hear it on the walkie-talkie. Ben gives the orders when he goes to talk to Jack. Like, he tells them to kill the survivors, but like Tom, they don't really do it. Like, that was a bit like corny the way it was done, but like whatever. Like, we think that they're dead, but they're not. And so Hurley arrives. Hurley saves the day. Like, how awesome he is, Hurley, by the way. He's just fantastic. And so Hurley arrives, he saves the day, and the others are stopped. And like, I love how Jack just like beats the shit out of Ben. It's just fantastic. And Ben like gets to kick the shit like crapped out of him like so many times in this series, and he truly deserves it. He's like an asshole most of the time. And this is tragically the last episode of Dominic Monaghan as Charlie, he dies here. He finds out that the freighter isn't actually Penny's boat, and he writes it on his hand, and he kills himself. Like he shuts the door when Mikhail he explodes his bomb, and the water comes in, and he dies. What Desmond watches it all happen, and it's sad. It's a very sad scene. He didn't need to die. I don't think that he had to die, but I guess that Desmond like kept seeing him die over and over again, and so like there was nothing much that he could do at this point. Like he probably knew that he was destined to die, so that's why he decided to end his life right there. It's a very sad scene, and I think that this is a great episode. I love how they go down there to the station, try to stop the signal, the jamming signal, and for the survivors to get rescued. And my favorite episode of the series, I think that it's gonna be different probably for everyone, but for me, it's There's No Place Like Home, part 1, 2, and 3. That was my favorite episode of the series. I remember like first time watching it, I was so glued to the screen from beginning to end. I love every moment of this episode. I think it's fantastic. It's a great season ending. It's just amazing. I just didn't really know how Locke was going to move the island. That was what he was supposed to do. And I think that it's so great the way they do it. He and Ben, they go to the Orchid Station. Ben moves the wheel, and he teleports to this desert. And I love the scene where Locke tries to convince Jack that he's not supposed to go. This isn't his destiny. And later, Jack realizes that Locke was right about everything. I just love everything about this episode. I love what's happening on the freighter as well. Like they find this bomb, and they're trying to like freeze it. They don't have much time. Michael tries to redeem himself, and like the Faraday goes back and forth to the mainland, to the island, and to the freighter, so that people can get rescued. And of course, I forgot to mention that, Kimi and his army, they head to the island to kill all the remaining survivors because they're men of Winmore. And so this episode is really action-packed. It's great. It's like the others versus the men on the freighter. Ben gets help from Richard, and like Kimi doesn't really want, like Kimi never dies. Kimi is just like this badass soldier and this asshole as well. And I love the character, and I think that it's badass the way that Saeed finally kills him. But boat does explode at the end. Like we think that Jin explodes with it, but actually Jin actually survives, which is good because like Jin is an awesome character. And so, and they, some of them, like 6 of them, Oceanic 6 they are called, they managed to get off the island by the helicopter. Sawyer jumps off because there are bullets in the helicopter, and they're losing fuel. So Sawyer sacrifices himself, like he jumps in the water so that the rest of them can get to the freighter. And just before the boat explode, they head on this water boat, and they are drifted at sea. And so yeah, the survivors, they managed to finally get off the island, the Oceanic 6. And in flash forwards, we see them like arriving home and talking to their families, like reuniting with their families and talking to the media. And of course, now they decide to lie because they don't want people to come and find the remaining survivors of the island. And I think that was like the right decision to lie. You can't tell the truth here. It's impossible for them to do so. Locke was right. Like if they told the truth, like everybody would have been after this place, and the survivors would have probably never been rescued. So Yeah, There's No Place Like Home is my favorite Lost episode. I think it's absolutely terrific. So yeah, those are my top 10 Lost episodes. Let me know what yours are down in the comments below. Please like, subscribe, and see you next time. Bye.